What's up? I got asked a real good question. If it wasn't for Sugar Ray Leonard, which middleweight fighter would have benefited the most? Because you still had Marvin Hagler, Thomas Hitman Hearns, Roberto Duran. They were the four. They were the main four. You know how sometimes people do a Mount Rushmore and they said, I got to pick your four. Those were the four. It's just a matter of which one did you like. Sugar Ray had the skills and the showmanship, charisma crazy. Hitman had that power punch, that one hitter quitter. Hagler had them body that just to totality would get you. And Duran was like encompasses all. He had the strength, the duration, and the agility. So which one would have benefited the most? This is a good question because growing up watching them all four in the peak in the prime, and this was must see. The only thing that I would compare seeing them four was kind of like men's tennis in the last 15 years when you had Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, and Andy Murray. Of course, Murray didn't have the long run, but he had a successful run. So, but that was kind of like because I like it when you could really look at people and multiple and go, how does this weigh out? And that one weighs actually better than the LeBron Curry Durant situation too. So that's another story. But anyway, so how does this weigh out? How do I look at this? If I had to pick based on who would have been the next popular one, it's going to be out of Hearns and Hagler. So who do I think would have been compelling next in line of those? Gotta say Hagler. I think Hitman Hearns was more of a regional thing with certain people. Something about Hagler, I think Hagler loaned himself a bit in between. Believe it or not, I think there was something about Hagler that got him, marvelous Marvin Hagler. He had earned him a kind of a title. And it's kind of like, one of those things where you kind of like, wow, he really, he had a way about him that it kind of fit. It was kind of like, yeah, it kind of fit. He connected. A lot of people were upset. More people were probably upset about Sugar Ray getting that fight over him than they were about the Hearns one. I was more of a Hitman Hearns fan. I don't care for Hearns' politics, but as a fighter, he was one of my favorites. And I still remember when Michael Jackson was rocking a Hitman Hearns t-shirt back in the 80s. Hearns was cold in the streets. And that fight with him and Hagler to this day is the best straight up fight I've ever seen for 3 rounds because they threw everything. And that was a real fight. There was nothing left on the table. All you had was jerry curl juice, elbows, ankles, and arms frailing and wailing. And it was just a matter of who was going to make it. Best fight I've ever seen, probably. One of my top 2 to 3 fights I've ever seen because that was a no halls barred. That was a fight. But Hagler won, and because Hearns' knees buckled, because Hitman he had glassy legs. But the hands, he was bringing it. But anyway, the reason why I don't say Duran is because it's kind of limited. He wasn't as popular. He was popular strictly for fighting. You got to remember something. It's almost like a beauty contest pageantry. You're a boxer. If you don't have no charisma, you get no tickets. You get no hype. You can win, but you don't get the same purse. You don't get the same hit. So thinking about it, I'd probably say Hagler than Hearns. If it wasn't for Sugar Ray Leonard in the middleweight division, who would have been the next guy up? It's a good question. I'm glad I got asked it because I remember him just like yesterday. Even though Hearns was my favorite, but I'd probably say Hagler. We're just going by because I think he was like the next one if there was something for charisma. But Sugar Ray Leonard's charisma and pizzazz was something else though. Hard that ever until you see Oscar De La Hoya and then Floyd Money Mayweather. And when you talk about charisma in the ring, very few are matching what Sugar Ray Leonard did. He was the closest thing to Ali. Tyson had it, but more because of his brute, and he had an aura about him. There are more of the guys who have it tend to be on the heavyweight side. Sugar Ray Leonard was one of the few with Sugar Ray Robinson. Was one of the few on the lesser weight, but his charisma was almost uncanny. Please like, subscribe, welcome thoughts, comments, and I do respond. Thank you. Wash your hands, keep your mind clear, watch out for another. Share it if you like. Stay safe, stay blessed, stay woke, stay free. I'm out one time. Peace.